What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you another update thanks to Legacy of Destruction, and that is with Chimera Illusion. Now Illusion actually got two brand new cards that are utilised in the main deck. I know they do get other Illusion monsters, and they did get other Illusion monsters in the new set, but there's only two that you're going to utilise, and unfortunately they are two secret rares, and that is the Nightmare Apprentice and the Diabels, the original Sin Keeper. Now this one's actually really important because it kind of turns itself into a mini anti-spell fragrance, while being able to deal with some of those set cards. I'll show you a combo at the end of the video as well as how you get into that. It is really kind of cool the way this deck is now starting to take shape and and how the new Illusion type has kind of come to fruition and kind of come together. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Starting off with the main deck monsters, we are starting with Triple Mirror Sword Knight. This is the main card of the deck, but it is also, quite like Branded Fusion is for Branded, even though we play Branded Fusion in this build, a very weak spot to Ash. As it does tribute as cost, it can dodge certain effects as it is a quick effect, but if it gets hit with an Ash Blossom, it cries a little inside. Then we are playing Triple Cornfield Coatal. Oh, I'm doing good already on this one. So this one allows you to discard. Now, the issue with these two is both of them will only allow you to get into cards that mention Chimera Fusion, not an Illusion monster. However, that being said, this does give you direct access to get into the other cards, which are, of course, your Gazelle, the King of Mythical Claws, and, of course, your Big Winged Bermet. You're still playing these core essence of this deck. It does work out incredibly well, but then the difference is with Bermet, it allows you to target Illusion monster in the graveyard and bring it back, and that's, of course, where the other one, the Master Tau, is now more utilized, because if it's sent to the graveyard, you get to revive an illusion from the graveyard, and that's how you're going to be able to cheat out your original Sinful. For the other cards, of course, we are playing three of the brand new Nightmare Apprentice. So you can special summon this card from the hand by discarding any card, and you can only special summon it once per turn this way. If it battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. And if it's normal or special, you get to add an Illusion monster from your deck to the hand except itself. So that's how you're going to add yourself the brand new Diabels, the original Sin Keeper, and then you'll use this as fusion material, getting it to the graveyard to go into the more recent Age of Overlord, Bermet, and this will allow you to send the Great Keeper Tau, which will then allow you to bring this back. So your board will pretty much be rip one from your opponent's hand, all from one card, one card plus a discard will be rip one from your opponent's hand. It will also then be Apprentice Magician can't be destroyed by that battle, and then you'll also have Sin Keeper in defense that lets you destroy one card you control, and that will then allow you to destroy one of your opponent's cards as well when a card is set. So it makes your opponent set the spells before they are activated, spells and traps to be specific, which can be quite damaging. It can also be special summoned if there is a Sinful Spoils card in either player's graveyard. So it comes from the hand, but then you bring it back from the graveyard with a Great Master Tau. Now in this build, I am also playing the one light Hex Seal, and the reason for that is because we want to try and get our way into a Dragoon. So if you already open up a route that doesn't involve Branded Fusion in order to trigger off all of your Nightmare plays, which really comes off of the back of your wherever it may be, your Mirror Sword Knight, then it does mean that your Branded Fusion can be used. It doesn't need to go into the Rinbrum to set up your Gazelle plays and everything else to search you out your Mirror Sword Knight. It means it can actually be utilized to either make a Mirror Jade or you can make a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which can be very important because this just giving you that Omni Negate can be the difference from being hit with stuff like Evening Matches, Lightning Storms, and everything else in between. Not to mention, if you make this early doors off of the back of the Branded Fusion, you're able to protect all your plays going forward from stuff like Nibiru, which this deck can struggle against if you do not hold back some of your resource. As we are playing Branded Fusion, we are also playing at 2 Fallen of Albas with, of course, 3 Branded Fusion. Now, rather than going down the standard route of Branded Fusion into Lubellion or Albion, the first port of call that you will make if you only have Branded Fusion will be to go into the Rinbrum, because this requires Fallen of Albas and a Beast, Beast Warrior or Wing Beast. So that allows you to send the Gazelle of Mythical Claws, and the Gazelle of Mythical Claws, if it's sent to the graveyard, allows you to search out your Mirror Sword Knight, or an Illusion monster to be specific, and then that can then trigger off all of the chain of events to get you into the Bermet, search out your materials, get you into your Chimera Fusion, and push your plays further forward from there. The only other monster that we play in the deck that is not a hand trap is the Edge Imp package. So I've gone with a free 1-on-1 just to try and keep it on tight as possible. And the reason we've gone with a free 1-on-1 is you want to bury these cards, you want to see the Edge Imp chain, you want to discard this off a Nightmare Apprentice, you then search out a Patchwork and a Poly. You search out the Patchwork, and then you activate the Patchwork to grab you a Poly and a chain. So you've deck thinned it as much as you possibly can do, searching out a Poly as well. Now, there are builds that play a 2 and a 2. This is just the ratio that I've always really played when I've put this engine in a deck, because yes, it's great for that free discard fodder to get you that stuff back in rotation and technically plus a card, but then I've always felt that less so a second poly, but a second Patro always kind of felt dead, especially when you're in a Tempai format where it's very, very rare that you're actually going to get another turn. And that's where you need to control your board state, control their board state, and then hopefully that they can't OTK it, and then you're going to kill them the next turn. So entirely up to you. You can adapt this as you see fit. It is a 41 card main deck. If you do add those 2 in, it goes up to a 43, and that's probably where you might consider getting rid of the light Hex Seal. But I feel being able to go into Dragoon nowadays, yes, you need to be careful of Super Poly, but going into a Dragoon, especially in a Tempai matchup, they're not really playing Super Poly at this exact moment in time. So being able to protect your cards as well as being able to deal with a card that they play can be very, very important. Then for the other spell cards, we are playing triple Chimera Fusion. The reason you're going to play 3 on this is it is not a hard once per turn to Fusion Summon, and you can utilize this multiple times. Plus, even if you do activate it, put it in the graveyard and bring it back and then activate it again, you don't mind having another one ready to go, because then it means you can still have one set, which can be very important. For the anti-hand trap kind of lineup, we are playing 2 talents as well as 3 Super Poly. Super Poly is another card that you could possibly cut out if you wanted to, but it does give you that ability to break boards, as you do have a bit of flexibility in your extra deck. Plus, you can also use this as an aggressive push, because you can Super Poly your own board in the battle phase to end up getting the game winner that you might need. For the hand traps, we've gone with the pretty standard ones of triple Ash Blossom, followed up by triple Infinite Impermanence, and of course the one Call by the Grave, because you want to try and stop Ash as much as you possibly can. So that's it for the entire main deck, a full-on 41 card deck. I know I am trying to get it back down to 40 as well. It can get a little bit tricky. I just need to do a bit more testing to kind of find my play style with this deck and how I want it to go, and whether or not I still want to utilize Dragoon or not in it. I still think it's such a good card, and obviously being a Dark Magician fan, being able to utilize Dragoon is still insane. So moving on to the ExDe deck, we are playing 2 Chimera King of the Phantom Beasts. So this one on summon will start or trigger an effect, and that will allow you to take 1 random card from your opponent's hand, send it to the graveyard during the end phase of the turn. So you do need to remember that when you activate this, to remember to resolve it in the end phase. It also has a very nice effect in the graveyard that during your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can banish it from the graveyard to target a beast, fiend, or illusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So there's another way of being able to loot back some of your resources, and you can also bring back stuff like your Apprentice Magician and then search you out a follow-up for the next turn. The other one that we are playing 2 of is the Bermet. So this one, the reason it's so important is because it lets you send the Tau from the deck to the graveyard, and that's how you can set up the Apprentice during your first turn. So where this one requires a Beast and a Fiend, this one requires 2 monsters with different types between Beast, Fiend, or Illusion, which is exactly the whole point of the entire deck. His name becomes the Chimera of the Fire Mythical Beast while it is on the field or in the graveyard, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, you get to send a Beast, Fiend, or Illusion from the deck to the graveyard, and then during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished Beast, Fiends, or Illusions, accept itself, and special summon it. So again, it allows you to loot back some of your cards if they have like Bestial Lubellion them, not just Lubellion, but if they have Bestialed them or DD Crowed them or anything else. Plus these are wins, so they can't actually be hit themselves. Great success. We are then playing one of the boss monster in the Chimera, the Illusion Beast. Sometimes you just want to be able to turn your opponent's monster to 0 and then just go attack, damage, attack, damage, attack, damage. We will be playing 2 Guardian Chimera. I actually lent one to a friend of mine. So imagine this is a second Guardian Chimera. You'd play 2 of them. I just don't have the second one on me. Then for the Albas kind of branded lineup, you've got the 1 Albion, the 1 Lubellion, the 1 Rimbrum, which you'll make more times than not, and then of course the 1 Mirror Jade to kind of finish it all off. Followed up by, of course, the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and your Super Poly targets of your Mud Dragon, your Garura, Wings of Resonance Life, and of course the Predaplant Dracus Depelia. So all quite encompassed. I do kind of consider the idea of playing an SP Little Knight just for those pure facts that there is times when maybe your opponent debarries you, or maybe there is a way that you're going to need to make something else. Yes, you do lock yourself into fusioning for the entire turn when you summon out the level 5 Bermet from the deck, but if you don't do that particular turn, and considering the only time you're going to want to make an SP is on a follow-up turn, not the first turn, you should have a board to make already. And let's say your opponent has got a Floodgate holding you out or going any further, or if your opponent has got a D-barrier flipped up on you, you can still use a fusion monster plus any monster, go into SP, get rid of a particular card, and then you're still going to have SP floating around the board as you see fit. It's not a perfect strategy, but it is something you might want to consider, just so you don't get hit with a D-barrier and then go, cool, crap, pass. So that's it for the entire deck. Very straightforward, simple, to the point. Not much more needs to be said about it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out to the camera. A little bit too much there. And now I'm going to show you a very basic combo with the deck. It is quite simple. Like, you can start off with your Mirror Sword Knight. You can also start off with a discard off of the back of... right at the bottom, your Nightmare Apprentice plus any random discard, and you can also consider stuff like Brand Infusion to get you where you need to go as well. The idea is that what you want to try and do here is you're trying to go with your Mirror Sword Knight, you're going to use up your normal summon, you're going to tribute this off. This will then give you direct access to your Bermet, which is your level 5. That is the core card that if you wanted to stop anything, that's probably what you're going to stop. But more times than not, if you're going to activate your Mirror Sword Knight, you're probably going to get hit with an Ash at that point. So you bring out your Bermet. Bermet's effect is going to trigger. The best one of doing it is if your opponent doesn't know and they try and imperm this, you just play quick effect and run away. And you still get everything you need. Your Bermet will now trigger. This will now allow you to add your Chimera Fusion. Great success. And of course, your Gazelle Beast of Claws. You can now activate your Chimera Fusion. You're going to use a Beast and a Fiend, putting these two together, and that's going to give you direct access to your Chimera, wherever it may be, the King of Phantom Beasts. Now, you can start building up your chains here. Obviously, this is probably the least effective, and what I mean by that is when you look at Bermet, it can get hit with Bell, and then when you use your Gazelle, it can actually be hit with an Ash Blossom. So you want to make sure that these are the lower ends of the chain, so Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2, and then Chain Link 3 protects all of it, which is a great kind of outcome. So you're going to be able to rip one from your opponent's hand during the end phase of the turn. You're then going to be able to resolve your Bermet, which can bring your Mirror Sword Knight back onto rotation, and the reason you do that is that's either going to be your Fusion fodder, or if you save it for during your opponent's turn, you can tribute it off, and in doing so, that will then get you access to another Bermet, which gives you the Chimera Fusion and a second Gazelle. So now that you've done the Bermet, bringing an illusion back from the graveyard, you can now use the Gazelle, the King of the Mythical Claws, which allow you to add an illusion monster from your deck to the hand. So this is how you're going to get yourself into the brand new Nightmare Apprentice. Now, if you still need that additional discard because, I don't know, you're top decking or anything, you can, of course, just recycle the Chimera Fusion. But just for the purpose of this test stand, we're going to add an additional card to it. So we're just going to treat this as a random card, just so you have that ability to discard it and summon down the Nightmare Apprentice. Now, the Nightmare Apprentice will trigger on summon, which will allow you to add an illusion from the deck to the hand, and that's when you're going to want to go directly for your Diabells. So now what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to recycle the Chimera Fusion back to your hand, and you're going to want to activate the Chimera Fusion using 2 different types. Very important that you use 2 different types, but it's very easy because you're going to use your Beast on the board, which is the free fodder, plus your illusion in the hand, and that's going to get you into your Bermet, the Mythical King of Phantom Beasts. You'll then be able to trigger the effect of this to send an illusion from the deck to the graveyard, or that's ideally what you're going to be going for, if anything else, and this is going to set your Master Tau from the deck to the graveyard. If it's sent to the graveyard, you get to target illusion monster in your graveyard except itself, which will be the Diabells, and summon it back to the board. You can't special summon from the graveyard the turn except illusion monsters, which is absolutely fine because that's all we have done is brought back from the graveyard an illusion monster here and an illusion monster there. So now as this currently stands, what you've got is you're still going to have 3 more cards in your hand to play with. Unfortunately, you cannot recycle the the Chimera Fusion from the graveyard, but what you do have is during the end phase of the turn, you will use the Chimera or resolve the Chimera King of Phantom Beast to rip one from your opponent's hand, so they're only going to be playing with 5 cards instead of 6 to try and break this board. You then also have the effect of the Chimera King of the Phantom Beast in the graveyard to banish it and bring one back to the board. So we'll just play through on opponent's turn just so you can kind of see how much more you've got to do, including making these like unknown cards. These can be additional bricks, they could be additional hand traps, you name it. But the idea is now currently your opponent must set all cards, all spells and traps before they activate them. And if they set a card that you feel is going to be threatening, like if they search out a card, for example, and then they have to set said card, you can then use the Diabells, if you want to destroy either of these, and even itself to then send that card. Now, it can only be done once per turn, but at least if you keep this on the board, they still need to set all of their cards, which gives you another form of interruption. And that's where it's really important with stuff like Chimera Fusion, that if you keep this around, which is why you're going to be playing 3 of it, it means that once you do the first effect off of this and destroy a card, for example, when they set another card, you can activate the Chimera Fusion, go into your Guardian Chimera, and then pop a second one. So straight away, their hand of 5 has been set one and lose it, set a second and lose it. They've got 3 more cards to play with. And by that point, you would have activated your Mirror Sword Knight, tributing this off in order to get you access to your second Bermet, unless you've hard opened it and then, you know, cry deep inside. But you're going to then summon out your second Bermet. This in turn will then allow you to trigger to grab you a Chimera Fusion and then also grab you the Beast. So this will then allow you to add your second Gazelle of Mythical Claws. So your hand will now currently look like this. So you've got the follow-up and the crackback for the next turn as well. And that's what's really, really important. Now, it's unfortunate that it only lets you add a Beast, but, you know, not so bad. So your opponent is still needing to deal with this. The apprentice can't really be destroyed, which is quite important. And then you still have the effect of this, that you get to bring back one of your banished. You also got to remember that you've got the Mirror Sword Knight in the graveyard, that should your opponent activate a card effect while you control Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, you can banish this card from the field or graveyard to negate that effect when a monster effect your opponent controls is activated. So that will then turn their 3 cards left, let's say, to a 2 cards. And then you still have the Chimera, the King of the Phantom Beast, to bring one back from the graveyard should any of these get cleared off. And you still have all of the crackback of everything else should you need to. So keep in mind as well, you've banished the Sword Knight, so you then have this effect that when it gets to the graveyard, you can banish that and go from there. The idea is that you want to try and get to a Chimera Fusion, which is why you also use the Patchwork engine, because in that scenario where we use Chimera Fusion to fuse into this guy, you can just fuse into it with a normal poly, and then that means you still have this. So once you add that to your starting hand, yes, you'd take 1 card away, but you would then still have the Chimera Fusion to be set and ready to go. Not to mention that the random discard off of the Nightmare Apprentice would be that you searched out in the form of the second chain. So you're still going to be able to gain so much more advantage and resource and keep your hand limit as high as it possibly can be. So that is it for the entire profile and a short, in-depth combo for the deck as well. I do like this. I think it's a nice little spin, and I like the idea that it still maintains the essence of, or like a core component of Branded, as well as the Mythical Beast kind of elements to it, which makes it really, really fun. If you want to see more from this deck, then make sure you smash that like button. Getting the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock that for you. I do have a couple of duels from Rob, who actually plays this at locals, and he does do incredibly well with it. He's gotten better from it, and he's been using it since like near enough day 1, which is really kind of cool to see. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.